Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with another Christian news and views. Today is rather historic. This is our 100th episode. I'm kind of excited about that. 100 episodes. Today I'm looking at the news and I'm looking at it through a biblical viewpoint, but it's instead of a particular news item. Today I'm looking at the whole picture of the United States, the Ukraine, and Russia as it is recorded in prophecy. And there's a reason for this. So normally this is not a Thursday's Bible talk, which is what my normal thing is. With all this talk about the United States and Russia and a possibility of World War III, I just thought it pertinent to address that subject. So I'm going to look at some of the characters in this. We'll start out with the United States. The United States is not specifically mentioned in the Bible, especially if you look at Revelation. There are instances in the Bible where you could say, oh, that might just, the term young lions might refer to the United States, but that's about as close as you get. In Revelation, you don't even have that. And so the United States is simply not mentioned there. Some people have fanciful ideas that the United States is meant by a variety of names and innuendos. The simple truth is that the United States, a modern-day superpower, probably doesn't exist or will be so crippled as to have no real power and therefore is not mentioned. Another factor that might come into play here, we have today a president who believes in negotiation. And in Revelation, I believe that's there, is the Western powers try to negotiate things with Russia to prevent an invasion of Israel. That may be in Ezekiel that actually takes place. But in either case, they are using negotiation. However, one of the reasons I don't think this is current, that this could be a possibility of today, is simply because the man who sits in that position today as President of the United States is Donald Trump, who is an expert, and forget what the liberals have to say, he is an expert in negotiation. And while he is president, he can guarantee a lot of things, and he has a lot of influence. And so that's something that you just can't ignore. And so that's a simple thing right there that is stopping the whole idea of a invasion of Israel by Russia. But on top of that, the United States right now it's not as strong as it once was, because after 4 years of Biden, our military actually, I think it grew smaller and suffered a lot of wear and tear on some of their equipment, ships and tanks and stuff like that. But we have still have a vibrant economy, and that is already underway to bring things up. They're bringing more people into the military and things of this nature. So I don't see the United States as being crippled at this point in time. And so it's still a superpower at this time. So again, these are all reasons why it's kind of hard for me to imagine that the Ezekiel war could happen. World War III, that could happen. Just because World War III does not make it Ezekiel 38. It could be World War IV that's that way. So we got to keep that in perspective. So as far as Israel is concerned, as far as the Ezekiel's chapter 38 and 39 are concerned, I don't see the United States involved there. Well, let's move on. Let's look at Russia. Most commentators believe that Magog and Gog refer to Russia. It's a case of it's directly north of Israel, it has a wide span of influence, including Turkey, Iraq, Iran, a lot of the Arab nations there that would be involved in that war. So that does that exists. World War III, now move on to Ukraine. I don't find any mention of Ukraine in the Bible, let alone Revelation. So we'll skip that one. World War III. In any mention of World War III, the news commentators are always talking about World War III in connection or in relation to Ezekiel 38. I've already established that I have my doubts about that. So there is no doubt that somebody was, you have hands, unstable hands, mind you, that are very close to pushing that nuclear button. And these are the hands of a man by the name of Putin. I believe Putin is unstable. I would be unstable in the situation he's in. He trusted his generals, who told him that the military was ready to go in and they could take Ukraine within hours. Didn't happen. They tried, and they got humiliated. They have been pushed back. They made initial gains, and then they were pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And every once in a while, they would gain an edge and push back in again. And then Ukraine would get some more equipment and so forth, a lot of it from the United States, some from Germany, some from France, some from England, and then push them back into Russia, actually. And so they do have control over portions of Ukraine. And Ukraine, by the way, has control over some portions of Russia. Also, Crimea, which is technically these days been since 2014 have been under Russian control. That is, they actually moved a lot of their troops out, and basically were everything I was reading. If the Ukraine wasn't fighting a war elsewhere, they could move in right now. But their forces are so thin that they are having to fight a battle that reminds me of this our own Civil War. Robert E. Lee, probably one of the greatest generals ever was, going against U.S. Grant and the American Army, which outnumbered them, armed them, had better clothing, better weapons, and everything. And some prognosticators give Grant credit for this. I don't. Grant would move his troops down, and what Lee would do is he would be up here, and they would go following a trail, and so Grant would come down here to cross here, and Lee would come down and stop him. He'd move down here, and he'd stop him, and so forth. And Lee could stop him each time. And this was not some brilliant strategy, as some people have argued, of Grant's. This was really him trying to get make crossover and actually kind of envelop the rebel army. And Lee was able to outsmart him and put his troops down. But that cost Lee. Lee had to move his troops from one place to another. He didn't have excess troops that he could bring up and put there. Well, this is what's happening in the Ukraine. They're moving troops back and forth. The Russians attack up here, so Ukraine moves up here and pushes them back. Well, then they move down here, and Ukraine moves down here, and so forth. And it seems to be going like that. And so it's almost a stalemate. And this is where the negotiation comes in, and President Trump has a plan. I don't know what that plan is. We can look at different features of it. I believe there is a tilt, a pivot, if you will. The United States is pivoting over to the Pacific now because China is becoming a superpower in its own right, and the United States has to be able to move over there and try to control that situation over there. As a result, they're pulling back, and we don't have any troops on the ground in Ukraine right now anyhow, and so we're pushing NATO to do it. And Trump uses his negotiating power. He'll put stuff on the table that he doesn't really plan on doing, but we have no way of knowing whether he's going to do it or not. It's almost like a military strategy, like he feints here. not like he's fainting, but in the military term, the word feint means it's a fake move. You make a move like this, like you're going to move your troops over here, and it's really a feint, F-E-I-N-T, and you move over here, and the enemy has to move over. And Trump never had a plan to do that at the beginning. He just wanted them to think he did. And Trump is a master negotiator, and I think he can do a lot of that stuff. And so NATO has gotten stronger, partly because Trump forced him to in his first term, partly because Biden was a nothing president when it came to military preparedness. And so NATO had to step up there. So today, NATO is stepping up again because Trump has kind of put the pressure on them. And so they are really at a high level and probably going to go higher. And because they see Ukraine as a bulwark. They see that if Russia comes into Ukraine, all of a sudden Russia, already on their doorstep, moves even closer, and they don't want that. So they have a lot to lose. They have a stake. They got to stop Russia. And so NATO has become stronger. And so I think that that is right there could lead to World War III. Now, is World War III Ezekiel 38? Well, let's take a quick look at that. Some prognosticators view Ezekiel as fictional and not possible because, and here's their statement, who in this age would invade Israel with antiquated armaments? You know, in Ezekiel it's talking about huge number of people, and Russia does have a huge number of people. They have China on their side, who has a huge number of people. But as far as equipment coming down, Russian equipment, they really have been hitting a dry spell. Ukraine keeps knocking out their weapons and shooting down their planes. And if they don't shoot them down, they take drones and attack them while they're on the ground. And they have been destroying some very modern weapons. Russia's army is, let's see, I think it's been decimated. Here's what I have that I was going to say, and it's, they are making a huge assumption, these prognosticators, that Russia would have a modern army and air force. But when you look at what's been going on in Ukraine and what Ukraine has been doing in Russia itself, you get a different picture. That army has been decimated. Where are they getting the troops? They're bringing them over from North Korea and possibly China. Where do they get the equipment? Well, they have some equipment left. They're going back and pulling out some of their reserves to fight. Equipment, tanks, older tanks, and things of this nature that are, like I said earlier, antiquated. They are now China could move their not only their men but their weapons there. I don't think they've done that yet. That's always a possibility. North Korea, but they have China has their sights on Taiwan, not on Israel at this point in time. So right now that's not a clear direction coming. So the Russians are bringing troops from foreign allies, such as, like I said, North Korea, and throwing them into what has been aptly called a grinder, a meat grinder. What that means is they're sending these troops in only to die because they go in there with vastly outnumbering the Ukrainians. But the Ukrainians, because they have upgraded equipment and they have the ability to upgrade the equipment we send to them, their equipment that they're fighting with is able to kill a lot of Russians and a lot of North Koreans and so forth. And so the Russians have also conscripted their own people, giving them hardly any kind of training. When I went into the military, and I went to boot camp, and if I remember correctly, that was about, I think it was around 6 weeks, something like that. It might have been longer. I don't remember how long it was. But they're not getting that at Russia. They're conscripting them. They send them to their version of a boot camp, and within a week to 2 weeks, they're throwing them out to the front lines. They have not had a chance. They're not properly trained. They're not experienced, and they go in there to die. So they've lost tanks and other armament, and if the war continues, they will continue to lose them unless Trump can get a peaceful agreement going. The Air Force has provided air cover and little else. Plus, some of their highly touted airplanes have been shot down, like I said earlier, shot down or destroyed while they were on the ground. The Navy, in particular, I'm thinking of the Black Sea Navy or fleet, currently is hiding. They move them around a little bit, hiding them. What are they hiding from? The drones. The Ukrainians have taken and really turned the drones into an art. Now, Russia has their own drones now, but the Ukrainians are able to actually manufacturing their own. And a drone can be a very simple toy, what we would call a toy. Put a little put a little bomb on it and send it away, and they can guide it in, and they hit and the United States has been providing intelligence, and so they're able to guide them in, hit, and no Ukrainian loses his life on that, but the Russians do. But more importantly, their infrastructure gets hit and gets crippled. So in other words, mounting a modern day mechanized army to invade Israel currently will kind of be in doubt and is getting worse. But they still have manpower enough to send in using what did Ezekiel call? Horses and things, horse-drawn cannon and things of this nature. So it's not all that far-fetched, folks. Let's move on. Israel's not mentioned in a lot of the World War III talk, but if you're going to equate it to Ezekiel 38, you have to include Israel. So in Ezekiel 38, it talks of Israel as a land of unwalled villages. Now that may not mean just something to you, a civilian, but to anybody who's been in the military, that term is a military term. It speaks of a peaceful and unsuspecting people. It speaks of not just peace. Unwalled means they're not protected. Right now, Israel has has a U.S. Patriot system over there. They have their own Iron Dome and things of this nature, which protects them from missile attacks and planes and stuff like that. So they're not at peace. They are not unsuspecting. They're on the alert. Ever since, by the way, the Arabs attacked and invaded them, now it's almost, it's over a year, I would say probably closer to 2 years, when they invaded Israel and killed and took a lot of Americans too, and killed some Americans. So the Israelis are not peaceful right now, and they are certainly not unsuspecting. That does not describe modern Israel. And so I believe Ezekiel 38 refers to an invasion of Israel, possibly after the rapture and before the tribulation. And one reason for that is it's going to take 7 years to clean up the mess. And by the way, tribulation is a total of 7 years. It's divided usually into two halves, a tribulation period, initial, and then the Great Tribulation, the last 3.5 years. So it's going to be 7 years of cleanup. I suspect that could be during the tribulation. Now, I could be wrong about that. It could be, there could be a time, it could even possibly, it's been argued, it could be before the rapture. But there is nothing in the Bible that says that such and such has to take place before the rapture. The rapture could take place today. So I don't really see that, but it is a possibility. I'll just throw it out there. This war might also be what makes it possible for the Antichrist to guarantee Israel's safety. So, for instance, we know from Ezekiel 38 that God is going to destroy the Russian invasion. And so, maybe for a brief time, people will actually be in awe of God. but they have a tendency to always go back to their worldly ways. And this is where Antichrist will have the opportunity to move in and say, oh, no, 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 he didn't do it, I did it. And he'll go in there and people will start honoring him, and he will become a international, a world figure who will guarantee Israel's safety, perhaps because of oil or some other thing. But whatever the reason is, he will guarantee their safety for 7 years. It'll be a treaty. And he will move in, and then one day he's going to go into the temple, well, midway through the tribulation period, and that's when the Israelis will wake up and see that he is not who he pretends to be. So I do not believe that this war, the Ukraine-Russian war, as it now stands, is the Ezekiel war. I just don't see it. It could change, but we are seeing firsthand evidence that Russia is not quite ready to invade Israel. And with each passing day, they may end up, if the I don't think they're going to win in Ukraine, because the Ukrainians are good, tough fighters. And if necessary, I think NATO would actually send troops in on the ground. And if Russia decides to send nukes at them, well, I feel sorry for Russia, because the NATO has more nuclear weapons and it could actually destroy Russia. So I think that some wiser heads than Putin might stop him from doing that. So I just don't see that. I do see dangers, and one misstep and it could bring on World War III. But I don't see this as the Ezekiel 38. That's my viewpoint. And if you like this channel, be sure to subscribe to it. Right down here. Oh, wait a minute. Right down here. Right there. There is this place where you can click on and subscribe to this channel, TR Independent Books. You come in there and you will find that I have two podcasts. This one here, Christian News and World. No, I did it again, didn't I? Christian News and Views. And the other one is Becoming a Published Author is Fun. And that is where I give out free advice. To anybody who wants to be a published author, I give you out free advice. Doesn't cost you a cent to take my advice. Now, to implement it, if you need to go out and hire somebody to do something that I've told you to do, that can cost you. But as far as you getting information from me, it's free. I give it for free. So I encourage you to subscribe, and I will do all in my power to create episodes that will inform you, encourage you, and inspire you. That is my goal, that is my intent, and that is my promise to try every time I try to do that. I want you to be able to trust this. Trust me. I'm not saying I'm the last word on this. It's my viewpoint, but I'm coming at it from a conservative view and, most important, from a Christian view. And so hopefully this has helped you formalize your own thinking on it, or at least giving you an idea, well, I got to check that out, see if he's right. That's okay. Check me out. And by the way, if you want to comment, whether you agree or disagree, you have that ability. Go ahead and comment upon these episodes. And I do go back and look in it, and I may even answer it there, or I may answer it in a future episode. So you have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode.